Hello everyone and welcome to your severe weather update for June 24th, 2023. Let's jump right into it here. Firstly, an active period of severe weather is coming up throughout the next 3 days or so make sure that you watch our video on how to prepare for severe thunderstorms. That's down in the description below, so that way you know how to plan, prepare, and act for severe weather throughout the remainder of the season. Let's now jump into what's currently happening. We have an area of low pressure there that's straddling the Dakotas at this time, between the border there. We then, as we go farther south, have some severe storms going up in the state of Iowa. This is the beginning of our main event there. It's going to become a big line that moves through from Des Moines all the way down towards Illinois. Farther north, we also have a tornado threat we'll talk about as well today. And then farther south there in the state of Missouri near the Springfield metro, we do have a severe thunderstorm over there. And we have some flooding concerns up in the Pacific Northwest in the state of Montana specifically. We also have a low pressure system over in the northeast that's causing some gloomy weather, some rain, but nothing severe is expected today. Well, let's talk about what's going on in the upper Midwest. We talked about this yesterday, still a level 2 out of 5 risk. That's a slight risk. Thunderstorms are currently ongoing. However, they're not overly intense. This is going to change here over the next few hours. And you can see that slight risk there rather clearly denoting where those intense storms will be, stretching all the way from just around the Twin Cities all the way down through to around Springfield, Illinois. It is expected to change over the next couple of hours before a powerful complex of severe storms forms that moves through that region, and these storms will be a threat until around 3 a.m. These storms will be capable of damaging wind gusts up to or over 60 miles per hour, large hail in excess of 2 inches in diameter, and perhaps some brief tornadoes, especially there around the Des Moines metro and farther north into northern Minnesota where that northern slight risk area is. Have ways to get weather alerts throughout the day into the overnight hours is, again, this is going to be a threat well past midnight, so please make sure that you have ways to get weather alerts in the event that this does happen. The biggest killer, severe weather-wise, of people beyond flooding is overnight tornadoes. Overnight tornadoes compared to normal tornadoes, they do cause a lot of damage, death, destruction, things like that, because people just aren't alerted. All right, let's talk about now the hail. This is the biggest threat for today. If you're in the hatched region there, that includes Des Moines, you are in a threat for 2-inch in diameter or greater hail. If you're outside of that, the probability you're going to get that is much, much lower, but the hatched region denotes where particularly intense storms are possible. The yellow region is our slight risk for large hail. That includes Des Moines. That almost includes Springfield, Illinois. That's also just north of the St. Louis metro, Quincy, Illinois in that as well, Hannibal, Missouri, close to there too. But all those areas in a slight risk for severe thunderstorms, in particular large hail greater than 1 inch in diameter. As we move into the wind threat here, that stretches from Des Moines to Springfield, Illinois, and that is for damaging winds over 60 miles per hour. That's scattered coverage with isolated coverage expected there in our marginal risk in the brown. That does include places like New Orleans down in Louisiana. That includes places like Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Little Rock, Arkansas, Kansas City, Missouri as well. So many areas there within that marginal risk. That's isolated coverage. Finally, here's our tornado risk. Our tornado risk there, the one particularly north in the state of Minnesota there, in the north central side of the state, that's the only risk for severe weather up there. That's exclusively driven by tornadoes, that slight risk up there. So make sure that you're being extremely vigilant for that. As we move south, that includes around the Des Moines metro and points north and south in particular. But if you're in central Iowa, north central, south central, or just central Iowa in particular, be on the lookout for tornadoes today, as we've seen yesterday. And in the prior days, we can have 1 or 2 stronger tornadoes despite these 5% risks, just because of how much energy ends up being in the atmosphere. Well, let's take a look at a weather model now. This is the high-resolution rapid refresh. You can see those storms that are already ongoing. They form into more of a cluster after being individualized, and then quite a potent line of storms that moves throughout the evening and overnight hours in those areas that we were talking about earlier. And then farther north, of course, we do have that potential for tornadoes with some of those isolated storms that bubble up farther north in the state of Minnesota. Let's now jump into what's going on tomorrow. This has changed a lot since yesterday in the Ohio, Tennessee, and Mississippi valleys. This now includes much of the southeastern United States as well. So new places that are in this risk that weren't yesterday include places like Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, Little Rock, Arkansas. This has been aggressively expanded, and it's been upgraded from a level 2 to a level 3 out of 5, and I could even see further upgrades being a possibility in the not-too-distant future. So let's talk about it now. The remnants of strong to severe storms is going to move through from east to west, or west to east, through that enhanced risk area that you can see stretching through central Kentucky around places like Columbus, Ohio, all the way down to around Nashville, Tennessee. All those areas are expected to get some severe weather in the morning. That's not going to be overly intense, though. We're going to have additional severe weather from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. that's going to move on through, and that's going to be much more potent, and that's going to impact the entirety of our severe weather area. These storms are going to erupt and pretty quickly become a serious threat for all of those in the path of them. In particular, damaging winds are the primary threat. So damaging winds of 60 miles per hour or greater are possible, large hail in excess of 2 inches in diameter, and of course that isolated couple of tornadoes is a possibility. And I think the hot spot there in particular is going to be in that enhanced risk, but especially in Kentucky there. I think that's where we could see our hot spot for tornadoes tomorrow, so we'll just have to see. But regardless, if you're in any severe weather risk tomorrow, everyone needs to be watching out, as this has been very aggressively expanded and could continue to be in the future. Keep your guard up throughout the whole day Sunday if in the risk area. Be sure to have ways to get weather alerts overnight. I cannot emphasize that enough, as that continues to be an issue here with a lot of these systems. We have overnight severe thunderstorms that do move on through. These can still be destructive and deadly. We've unfortunately seen that over the past few days, and the additional expansion of this risk area and upgrades to risks are possible. I would not be shocked to see a level 4 out of 5 come out of this at some point tomorrow. That's not saying there will be one. I'm just saying that if there is one, do not be surprised. Be preparing for a pretty potent severe weather event if you're anywhere from around Columbus, Ohio, and Indianapolis, all the way down to Jackson, Mississippi, and even near the New Orleans and Mobile metros. So lots of areas expected to be in severe weather tomorrow. Let's talk about it now on a wider view. We also have marginal risks of severe thunderstorms. We have one there along the Nebraska, Wyoming, Colorado border. We also have another severe risk there along the Oregon-Idaho border as well. So many areas there are within a marginal risk for severe weather out farther to the west, but our main risk of severe storms, of course, being farther east, including places like Lexington, Kentucky. Well, let's talk about now some more potent threats here. This is the wind threat. You'll notice those marginal risks to the west have a wind threat with them. But again, that's our major threat out here to the east. It's almost identical there to our enhanced slight and marginal risks out there farther east. So I don't really have to go over geographical regions again, but just note all these areas expected to get some damaging winds. Again, our enhanced risk, that's for numerous storms capable of damaging winds. Our slight risk, that's for storms capable of damaging winds and scattered coverage, and then isolated coverage within the brown area, the marginal risk. Now, there's no hatched region, so there's no delineation of an area where the Storm Prediction Center expects wind gusts greater than 80 miles per hour, at least for now. We'll see if that remains tomorrow. Let's head into the official forecast now for hail. You'll notice there that the farthest west one for Oregon and Idaho, that risk, that is no longer in a risk here for hail. It's just for wind. And then you'll notice there that that risk for hail does persist for our Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska risk there right along the borders. Now, hail risk, this is not quite as widespread, but it does include places like Indianapolis. It still includes places like Jackson, Mississippi as well. But we have some places that are in that particularly intense zone where 2-inch in diameter or greater hail is possible. So keep your guard up there. If you are in between Nashville and Memphis, in the state of Tennessee, especially on the northern side of the state. If you're in Paducah, Kentucky, if you are close and south of Indianapolis, make sure that you're watching out, as this could be pretty serious for you. And then as we head towards Texarkana, as well as Little Rock, Arkansas, those areas within a particularly intense hail threat as well. That's again 2 inches in diameter or greater. 1 inch in diameter or greater hail is what everyone else in these risks is in for. So that's still rather serious. Just make sure that you're keeping an eye on official forecasts as we move forward. We'll have another update on this tomorrow as well. Finally, let's take a look at our tornado risk. That, again, centralized there in Kentucky. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier. That's where I think our hotspot's going to be. The Storm Prediction Center agrees, and then a tornado risk there for isolated tornadoes stretches all the way from Little Rock, Arkansas, and Texarkana all the way up to Columbus, Ohio, and even points further north just south of Detroit there. So numerous areas, again, in a tornado risk. It's going to be a big-time, widespread kind of risk tomorrow. Let's take a look here at the high-resolution rapid refresh. This is a new graphic. Tell me what you think of it, but this is another way of showing weather models kind of honing in, because we can actually use custom regions with this site, so let me know what you think of this. But you'll notice there that complex of storms moving south through Alabama there in those morning and afternoon hours. The other complex of storms that moves through our enhanced risk region at first throughout the day before you'll notice those storms do bubble up pretty quickly and then finally move through in the evening and overnight hours. Finally, we have a serious severe risk possible there in the mid-Atlantic United States, and if you're in the marginal or the slight risk, I'd be keeping my guard up all the same, and I would not be surprised to see this expanded with time, but this is definitely the least potent of the days, so strong to severe storms will be possible in the mid-Atlantic Monday afternoon, perhaps even into the evening. These storms will be capable of damaging winds and large hail. No mention of tornadoes by the Storm Prediction Center. I've taken a look at stuff on the models. I mean, 1 or 2 tornadoes may be possible, but there's no mention from the Storm Prediction Center, and it doesn't look overly favorable to me. Storms are not expected to be as intense as days prior, so this isn't one of those things where you're going to be getting those baseball-sized hailstones or those 80-mile-an-hour winds or those strong, maybe violent tornadoes like that. That's not what we're looking at here, and that's definitely good news for you guys in the Mid-Atlantic. Regardless of this, though, you still need to keep your guard up because this is still more intense than stuff you guys have seen in quite a while here. So anywhere from around the eastern side of Pennsylvania all the way down to around Atlanta, Georgia. Just make sure that you're keeping an eye on the sky on Monday, as again, severe storms are still going to remain possible, and you still need to be taking your precautions for that. Again, if you need a refresher on that, we do have a link in the description to our severe weather preparation video. And finally, again, have multiple ways to get weather alerts. It doesn't matter how big the threat is. We've seen threats like this overperform before, so when we're not expecting it to be particularly intense, that doesn't mean it won't be. The weather can be fickle. We don't exactly know what's going to happen with it, so please just make sure that you're being on the safe side here just in case. And let's take a look now at the broader region of this, because again, we have another marginal risk there farther west. That includes northwestern Nebraska, that includes southwestern South Dakota, that includes extreme southeastern Montana, and that also includes northwestern Wyoming, much of northwestern Wyoming there. So again, we have a marginal risk there. That's going to be for damaging winds and large hail as well. But our major risk for severe weather is going to be associated with the current system sweeping through the nation. That's going to be impacting the mid-Atlantic on Monday. Well, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I do hope this video was useful to you. You can hit the like button if you liked it. You can join our Discord community to talk to me and the rest of the team, and you can subscribe to the channel to tell us we're doing something right. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one.